Welcome back, Defenders. Jake here. According to the UK Defense Ministry, Avdiivka is unlikely to fall into Russian hands in the coming weeks. Russia's presidential elections are coming up in mid-March. Putin is increasing his election activities. And Putin really wanted something positive to talk about concerning this war that he started. Russia's military is incompetent. They're not going to be able to take the city of Avdiivka prior to Putin's re-election. And I don't really show the military map too often in my update videos anymore. Ukraine lacks the resources at the moment to go on the offensive. And the Russians are just incompetent. Their big winter offensive began on October 10th. I'm not going to forget this date. They do occasionally attack here in the Luhansk region. They attack along the Donetsk front, close to Bakhmut. But their primary focus, their main objective for their winter offensive, was to take the city of Avdiivka, assaulting Avdiivka directly nearly every single day. And here we are 4 months later, and I guess you can consider this as finally being in the city. But based on the rate of loss and what Russia's been able to accomplish so far, they're not taking the city of Avdiivka in the next 2 months. Avdiivka is a graveyard for Russian armored vehicles. One video shows yet another Russian armored column being decimated during an attack, with Russian troops simply running away and abandoning their vehicles. I'll link this clip down below if you want to experience the war for yourself. It's the wintertime. This is drone video. But how? How do these Russian soldiers continuously just commit suicide? Knowing, seeing for themselves what the previous failed assault the day before and the week before and the month before, it just keeps going. So normally, with meat wave attacks, you're trading bodies for land, but Russia's not even advancing. They're just trading the lives of their soldiers for artillery rounds, landmines, and drones. And Putin seems to be okay with that. But this is a serious problem because Ukraine could run out of drones, artillery, and landmines. Artillery ammo crisis is giving Russia a major advantage. With US aid running dry and Europe unable to meet its commitments, Ukraine is finding itself badly outgunned. So here on the channel, I try and find clips from Western leaders to give you encouragement. And today I want to play this clip from the House of Lords. This is the Minister of State, the Earl of Minto.
Our challenge as we enter 2024 is to ensure the West and our partners across the world do not lose resolve and continue giving Ukraine all that they need to overcome the invader. Putin's invasion has galvanized NATO, solidifying its position as a truly united alliance. We must never take our eye off Ukraine's struggle for freedom, which is why the UK continues to step up, showing the leadership necessary, showing a partnership to last a century, and continuing to urge our allies to step up alongside us. So Putin can be left in no doubt that we, all of us who value freedom, are in this for the long term until we prevail.
I thank the UK for their leadership, and this gentleman is right. Putin has galvanized NATO. Going back in time just 2 years ago, what was the average Westerner's opinion of NATO? And they might have said it's an outdated, unnecessary alliance. Putin has changed the minds of Westerners a lot these last 2 years. And I do think that when Russia loses this war and Ukraine is finally secured, we're going to need some serious reforms to NATO. We need this alliance to function better and for all the member states to take their commitments serious, because we need to be better prepared for the next dictator that tries to steal someone else's land. EU threatens to silence Hungary if it blocks Ukrainian funds. I'm not European, but you guys shouldn't mess around with this guy anymore. He's clearly working for Russia. If he doesn't want to be a member of NATO anymore, if he doesn't want to be a member of the EU, he can leave. Hungary can be fully independent if that's what they want. They can join Russia if that's what they want. But this EU summit coming up on February 3rd, this is very important for Ukraine. We can't have Hungary or even Slovakia obstructing anymore. So these members have to be dealt with. Berlin contemplating Taurus missile swap for Kyiv. Germany could supply Taurus missiles to NATO partners who would then export similar weapons to Ukraine. Let's get creative. I love these ideas. So Germany doesn't want to send their longer-range Taurus cruise missiles to Ukraine. But if Germany wants to send Taurus cruise missiles to the United Kingdom, this would free up the UK's inventory to send more Storm Shadow cruise missiles. Likewise, Germany could send Taurus missiles to France, freeing up space in their inventory to send more Scalp cruise missiles to Ukraine. Make it happen. This is a report out of Bloomberg. Putin says he's willing to guarantee security and will not oppose Ukrainian membership in NATO, but refuses to return occupied territories. Anytime a Western news article says something like this, I think it's a fake report. Russians spreading misinformation, and there's just some people in the West who want to hear this, so they latch onto this information. But this is not possible even if it was true. Russia, according to their constitution, annexed the territory of the Donetsk Oblast. They're not going to stop this war until they have the entirety of the Donetsk Oblast. It's been 2 years. Russia can't even take the city of Avdiivka. So how the heck are they ever going to forcefully take Sloviansk or Kramatorsk? Maybe the Russians know this. The only way they can ever take the entirety of the Donbass region is if they can convince Ukraine in negotiations to just retreat from this territory. Same is true for the city of Zaporizhia. This is 700,000 people. And Russia wants this city and all those people living in that city, which is never going to happen. It's not just about giving up land, it's about giving up people. And Ukraine is never going to willingly do this. Either way, Kremlin denies Putin is sending signals to the United States for Ukraine peace talks. When you ask the Russians directly, do you want to negotiate? Do you want to find a way to end this war? And let's actually take the Russians at face value that they don't actually want to stop. When I see these clips on Kremlin State TV, I take it serious. Here's Russian propagandist Mardan explaining Russian peace.
И вот этот человек говорит про формулу мира для Украины. Какая формула мира? Формула мира для Украины только одна. Ликвидация Украины как государства. Вот это единственная формула мира, которая гарантирует мир на этой славной, прекрасной земле, которая когда-то называлась Украиной.
I don't speak Russian, but is genocide and peace the same word in Russian? The only way that Russians believe they can have peace is if they just exterminate the people they don't like. This is what the Russians have been doing for centuries, erasing the ethnic and cultural identities of the peoples of Eurasia, Russifying them, and then congrats. They all get to live under Ruski Mir. Isn't Russia today just the greatest country in the world? Let's now talk about the US's military commitment to continuing to support Ukraine. The Europeans are stepping up and doing their parts. Key US senators agree on a border Ukraine aid deal to be unveiled next week. I feel like it's been next week for 5 weeks now, but allegedly, this is the week that Minority Leader Mitch McConnell is going to unveil the details of this Ukraine aid package paired with border security and immigration reform. And on my channel yesterday, I made a 37-minute video explaining to you the truth about the situation on the southern border. and America's broken immigration system. The video is 37 minutes. That's the shortest I could make it to condense and explain what's happening. It's a very complicated topic. I cut an additional 13 minutes of me talking just to get it down to 37, but check it out if you want to know the truth about what's going on with the border. And here's the cover of the week. This is a UK journal. We've got Speaker Johnson riding an elephant, waving a white flag. And what's happening here in America is Donald Trump will become the Republican nominee. I was hoping it was going to be Chris Christie or Nikki Haley, someone who supports Ukraine. But Donald Trump doesn't support Ukraine. Nothing he's said and done at all, ever, indicates that he supports Ukraine. And in fact, he really likes Vladimir Putin and the Russians. He only says nice things about Putin and the Russians. And Speaker Johnson is just going to do whatever Donald Trump tells him to do, because as the Republican nominee, de facto, he is the leader of the party. And Speaker Johnson, without even seeing the bipartisan Senate deal that Republicans negotiated, he's already declaring the bill dead on arrival. Without talking to his House members, without talking to his constituents in his home district, without talking to Senate Republicans, Speaker Johnson is declaring this dead because Donald Trump wants it dead. Donald Trump doesn't want to help Ukraine, and Donald Trump doesn't want to secure the border prior to the November elections. And this is what House Republicans are turning down. I want to read this tweet from Bill Mulligan. He's a Fox News reporter. Customs and Border Patrol sources tell me there were 6,600 migrant encounters at the border yesterday. Hypothetically, if this Senate deal was law right now, the border would see a mandatory shutdown triggered by a 5,000 migrant encounter threshold. Border Patrol would be required to immediately remove any illegal immigrants they apprehend. No processing, no asylum, doesn't matter if they're on U.S. soil. There would be mandatory removal, and this would not stop for 2 weeks until the average encounters go back below 3,750 a day. Regardless of the threshold, all single adults would be mandatorily detained. So there's good stuff in this bill that Senate Republicans really want. And Speaker Johnson and Donald Trump don't want it because they want to campaign on it for the next 9 months. So here is Republican senators expressing their dismay. This is a clip showing Republican Senators Kevin Cramer, Lindsey Graham, Todd Young, and Tom Tillis. Let me play this clip for you.
I just reject the idea that we should reserve a crisis for a better time to solve it. You know, that's people. What's interesting to me is there are a lot of angry people out there, and that's why the border crisis is the number one issue for voters. I don't see how we have a better story to tell when we miss the one opportunity we have to fix it, and we go say, you know, I would love to have fixed it, but it was election season, so I thought I'd wait.
From my point of view, we need relief today, and what we're trying to do will help him if he gets to be president. I will say to President Trump, if we can put this package together the way I hope it falls into place, that you'll have more tools to secure America than you've ever had. And it's not about one president, it's about a system.
Well, I've registered my opinion to my colleagues. I've registered it to our leadership that I don't believe we should take this off the table. Certainly not to clear the way for a clean campaign debate season. Let's get something consequential done for the American people. That's how you instill trust in government and in your elected representatives, rather than paying fealty to short-term considerations.
I don't know how a bill becomes law. Go back to Schoolhouse Rock. If we don't take the opportunity now, there will be 0 Democrat votes for exactly the same policy beginning next year. It is immoral for me to think you look the other way because you think this is the linchpin for President Trump to win. I do not want to be a part of history that fails fails democracy, and that's a failure if we don't find a way to fund Ukraine and Israel.
I want to thank Republican Senator from North Carolina, Tom Tillis. Speaking the truth, I do not want to be part of history that fails democracy, and that's a failure if we don't find a way to fund Ukraine and Israel. It is immoral for me to think that you'd look the other way because you think this will help Donald Trump win an election in November. According to reports, Minority Leader Speaker McConnell is shook based on Donald Trump calling all these Republican senators, telling them to kill this bill because he doesn't want to secure the border. McConnell says the politics of this have changed and noted Trump wants to run on immigration. We are in a quandary. So what's President Biden doing? White House stays the course on border talks despite Trump's interference. Bless Joe Biden for trying, but these were never good faith negotiations. Speaker Johnson was always going to block this. The whole point of putting border security and military aid for Ukraine together was so that both would fail. I said this in my video 2 months ago. Biden put out a statement, securing the border through these negotiations is a win for America. For everyone who is demanding tougher border control, this is the way to do it. If you're serious about the border crisis, pass a bipartisan bill and I will sign it. If this truly is a national emergency at the border, then Republicans and Democrats should be working together to solve this crisis. This is what Senate Republicans are trying to do. Work with Democrats to fix the border to benefit the nation. But Donald Trump doesn't want to do that. He's telling Senate Republicans to stop it, that he wants this to remain a problem through the election because he thinks it will help him. It will help him get back into the presidency. And with all this noise, this is all going according to Russia's plan. We're not talking about the Ukraine aid side of this package, which is pretty damn important. And I just have to reiterate this over and over again, that military aid for Ukraine is not money for Ukraine. We send the Ukrainians old stuff that was built in the 1980s and 90s to use on the Russians. We then allocate money to build replacement stuff here in the United States. Military aid for Ukraine is mostly just money that we spend with the American defense industry. This is tax revenue, this is jobs, this is stimulating the American economy, replacing all these artillery shells and Javelin missiles and Abrams tanks and HIMARS trucks. This is what Donald Trump is fighting against. This is what Donald Trump doesn't seem to want. And this is where I might lose it in today's video. 3 U.S. service members killed in Jordan drone attack. 3 U.S. military members and 25 others were injured in one of these Iranian Shahed drones crashing into a U.S. military base. We don't have all the details yet. I can't give you a comprehensive report, but Jordan is a military ally. The United States does have soldiers stationed in Jordan to conduct operations in Syria. And Iran's proxies have been attacking U.S. military bases across the Middle East for weeks now. And we need to do something. We need Congress to pass additional military aid to our democratic allies. This is a military alliance between Russia and Iran. The Russians and the Iranians want to destroy America and weaken our allies around the world. So Speaker Johnson on Twitter says, "We are saddened by the loss of 3 American heroes in Jordan last night, and we are praying for their families for the other 25 service members who are injured." My response to him is, you're currently blocking military aid to Ukraine and Israel. They are our allies, currently fighting the proxies of this Russia-Iran alliance. The deaths of these U.S. service members are because of Speaker Johnson and Donald Trump. They're on your hands for undercutting our allies and emboldening authoritarians around the world to attack U.S. forces. Speaker Johnson never served in the military. Donald Trump never served in the military. And I don't understand what's happened to the Republican Party. This is the first time in my 40 years of life that Republicans have not wanted to strengthen the military and spend more money on the military. Why? To help Russia win? I'm going to lose it. So we're having an election here in 281 days, and Donald Trump must be defeated. He's working for the Russians. This is painfully obvious based on everything he says and does. So if you're an American, this is a call to action. The next 281 days, we have to do everything possible to make sure that Donald Trump does not get back into office. He's working for the Russians. Quick story I want to mention, U.S. to deploy nuclear weapons to the U.K. to counter Moscow's threat. This is an interesting headline, but it's not really a big deal. Of course, the United States stores nuclear weapons in certain NATO countries, and they've not been stored in the UK because the UK has their own nuclear weapons, about 260 warheads. My thinking is that most of these warheads are submarine launched, so the United States might be storing air-launched nuclear missiles, cruise missiles, in the UK. I think this is just a political reaction to the Russians stationing nukes in Belarus. Does this really change anything? No, but it's something that grabs the headlines and something that you can politically do to punish the Russians for their bad behavior. Very minor, but let's see if we can avoid a nuclear war. Biden administration approves F-16 sale to Turkey. White House approves the delivery of 40 new F-16s to Turkey after Turkey finally approved Sweden's admission to NATO. I think the Turks got a lot. I mean, this is publicly what we know they're getting, but the way that Erdogan works is he's not going to give anything up for free. In order for Sweden to join NATO, he probably had a long list of demands, and getting 40 F-16s was one of them. Whatever. Russia phases out pardons for convicts who fight in Ukraine. Shocker. So initially, to get out of jail, you'd get a presidential pardon if you could survive 6 months of fighting on the front lines. This war has been going on for 2 years. The Russians have realized they were being too generous with their convicts. So they're now saying, we'll let you out of prison, but you have to continuously fight until the war is over. And Russia's losing this war anyways, so these men will never be free. Final couple feel-good clips. I got good ones today. The first one is a Ukrainian defender spending time with his daughter.
What is собаки? What is собаки?
Сюда.
Super cute. Final clip I have for you is a Ukrainian defender becoming emotional hearing his national anthem. That's all for this update video. Glory to Ukraine, glory to the heroes. If you found this video informative, give me a thumbs up. Best way to support the channel. Comments and questions, let me know down below. I love hearing from you guys. Till the next video, keep defending the truth, keep defending democracy.